Chocolate Memories, a place where you can actually develop healthy relationship with food, pairs, and yourself. And today we're actually going to talk about overcoming fear. Fear is something that can actually cripple you if you're not actually careful. A lot of times you might see yourself in situations and not realize, okay, this is a learning experience. It's not all good all the time. And sometimes you got to take the good with the bad. And sometimes you fail. Because guess what? None of us is perfect. And the best part about knowing the difference between having a fear and overcoming it is a big difference. There are several different ways to get about it. And one of the things you want to do is actually keep positive. Have a positive mind frame. Just because you fail once doesn't mean you're going to fail again. Sometimes you have to have failure in order to know what success feels like. Let me say this again. Sometimes you have to know what failure looks like to know how great it is when you do have success. Now, some of the ways you want to go about doing that is develop healthier habits. That means, yes, eating healthy, exercise, doing other things besides what you have been doing that might not be in a positive direction or might not be healthy for you. So, for instance, if you're a person that doesn't read much, pick up a book. Start to read. You might actually learn something. You might actually take on something that you might not have known about in terms of arts and craft. You might learn a new skill. You might meet new people. Endless possibilities because you had your mind open. If you don't fail, then how would you know when you have success? Think about it. You have to actually get to a point whereas it's okay. It's not the end of the world. End of the world is something that we cannot escape from. It's going to come at some point, but it's not the end of the world if you fail. Then one person you know that has not failed in anything. One. A person. Can you? You know why? Because at some point all of us fail in something. There's not any person on earth that has not failed in one particular area and succeeded in several different things. You know why that happens? It's because a person knows what they're good at and found out what they're not so good at. The good with the bad. The second thing you want to do is take responsibility for your failure. Yes, I was wrong. Yes, I messed up. Yes, it's not something that should have happened, but it did. And guess what? You can't change the fact that it did. So that's take a complete responsibility that you know it happened, how it happened, and why. Your idea of why can be anywhere as from denial to acceptance to understanding the difference to where you at this point. The third thing you want to do, check your self-esteem. Yes. You have to see exactly where your confidence levels is. Is it up here? Is it below here? Is it in between? Do you even have confidence in yourself? Do you have confidence in others? If you do, how do you know? Confidence is really within you and not just necessarily how others might see you or even view you. Having a confidence is something that is within all of us. The fourth thing you can do is recognize your unhealthy attempts to reduce your pain. Reducing your pain, say for instance, you get upset and you're worried and you're anxious. And instead of coming forward and dealing with that problem, you sit back and you drink or you smoke or you overeat or you overthink everything. You have to know exactly what types of things brings that on when it comes to making unhealthy attempts to reduce your pain. The fifth thing you can do is be realistic. Don't say that it doesn't happen for each and every person. Everybody has their high and low points. If someone tells you different, don't believe it. Don't. Everyone has their time, and this might be just your time. Overcoming it is something that isn't going to be done overnight. Sometimes it is, depending on the situation. It depends on the person. Someone might be able to brush something off their shoulder like it was nothing. Another person might hold on to it to their life like it's like nothing else matters. And guess what? Overcoming your fear is something we all can do with a matter of practice, learning from your mistakes and move forward. Not forgetting now. I don't want to say forgetting, because forgetting is not something you want to do. You want to remember it so you don't do it again. That's the one thing you want to get a positive insight on. Know why you fail and why it happened. That's why it brings me to the next thing. Addressing your failures. The action that it caused. What was the consequences? How could you have done it differently? And if you didn't do it differently, would the results be different? Would your reaction be different? Would you be in the same situation? Or would you have gone above and beyond to avoid it from happening in the first place? These are a lot of different questions going to come about when you talk about failure and overcoming your fears. And there's nothing wrong with that. Because if you question it, guess what? You already took that initial step that knowing that something was wrong to begin with. Because if you didn't know something was wrong, then you might not even seen it as a failure. You might just seen it as a setback and not a failure. Setbacks is a fancy way of calling it a failure because they're one and the same. Yes, one and the same. The seventh thing you can do, which is absolutely my favorite, let it out. Get to the point where you know exactly what's going on. If you're frustrated, if you're angry, if you're feeling a type of way, say so. Don't hold on to it in their life like as if it's not upsetting you. Expressing your feelings and your emotions is one of the most healthiest things you can do. You know what isn't healthy? Not expressing it at all. Sitting there like nothing had happened. Brushing on there like, shh. I don't really care about that. That's not my concern. Really? There's a time and a place for everything. Just like you can say one thing and it be interpreted as something else. There's a time to succeed. There's a time to fail. When you fail, that doesn't mean you're always going to continue failing. The only way that can happen is if you can repeat the same step you have done before. If you have done it before and you think you get different results, you're not fooling anybody because you knew better. If you took the time out and you looked at that situation and you said, look, this now wasn't beneficial to me and why it happened, what could I have done differently? If you have not taken the time out to done so, then you might not realize, okay, this might have been for you. It might have been something in your best interest. Becoming your own person, living beyond your failures, living and celebrating your success is just as important as acknowledging your failures. Some of us might look at it as, oh, that just happened. That's life. Some situation, it is just life. Sometimes it's things that you can do different. There's certain things in terms of how you think. Mindset plays a very, I can't even stress this enough, a very important part of how you go about dealing with situations. Because if you think positive and you do everything possible to make it the best experience you can be, the failure is something that it may or may not happen, but when it does, your attitude is get back up and put yourself forward into a position where success is only a matter of time. Take your time and see exactly why. Celebrating your success is just as important as acknowledging your failures. Overcoming it takes days, months, weeks, hours, minutes. It depends on the situation. The best thing you can do is move forward. Moving forward means not looking back and saying, oh my God, this is not ever going to change. This is not ever going to happen. With an attitude like that, it's not going to get you anywhere. Trust me. Been there, done that. So I can be the first one to tell you. I wasn't where I was 1 year ago. I wasn't where I was 5 years ago. You know why? Because this time is a time that I've seen and never would see again, and it's not going to come back around again another time. Same thing. You start with one thing. Say, for instance, you didn't know how to ride a bike. You got those training wheels. You got on the bike, you fell a couple times, scruff your knee, mess up your elbow, and you get back right back on that tricycle. This time someone's next to you holding on to the back part of your seat, and then all of a sudden you doing it. And one day we have realized that you could take off those training wheels and use those two-wheelers to get where you need to be. The same thing can apply when it talks about failure and celebrating your success. Till next time, this is Miss City Round from Sparkling Memories. Bye-bye.